The virus that causes AIDS, HIV, is spreading in North Carolina. State officials are studying a sharp rise of HIV among our state's college students. Dr. Tom Linden reports on an outbreak that has health workers repeating their message that sexually active youth should get tested for HIV.
21-year-old Durham HIV educator Jose Ramirez found out he was HIV positive in 1999. At that time, he says, a nurse called him out of his high school class to tell him he was HIV positive.
So I went back to class, and after being in class for like 30 minutes, that's when I really broke down. Like, I was just like, oh, you know, I was like, okay. That's when it started to hit me.
Later, when a doctor gave him a brochure about HIV, Ramirez realized how little he knew about his new infection.
She was like, highlight everything you don't understand. The whole thing was highlighted. It was just like, whoa. So it kind of freaked me out. I was like, okay, I'm supposed to be reading about what I have in my body, but I don't even understand what the hell it means. So.
What it means, doctors say, is Ramirez will be infected with HIV for the rest of his life. Now he works for the North Carolina Lambda Youth Network in Durham, where he runs a support group for HIV-positive teens and counsels gay Latino youth.
I know when I do my workshops, they pay attention more because they know that it's true. And I tell them, I was like, look at me. I might not look sick, but I'm HIV positive.
North Carolina health officials say his message about HIV prevention is more important than ever for the state's college students. Health officials have uncovered 56 new cases of HIV in college men and 2 cases in college women since January 2001. State HIV experts say this could be the first time that college campuses in the state are areas of high HIV spread. Infectious disease specialist Dr. Peter Leone discovered that dramatic increase. With the help of investigators from the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, he's interviewing each of the HIV-positive men, most of whom are African American and contracted the virus through sex with other men. Leone says his hunch is that they all knew about the risks they were taking.
They know that HIV is out there, yet they continue to engage in high-risk activity, meaning unprotected sex, with partners that may or may not be HIV infected. Part of it is, being young. We send 18 and 19-year-old youth off to war because they don't necessarily view themselves at risk. And I think that's true for chronic diseases. The other issue is that this is maybe the first generation of folks who their entire life they've lived with the message of HIV.
Leone has learned that the students infected with HIV are scattered throughout North Carolina. They're connected by a social network of college campuses, dance clubs, and internet chat rooms where they've met many of their sexual partners. It's in these small networks that HIV can spread very quickly.
Any questions on the exam or studying for the exam?
Health education professor David Jolly studies how HIV spreads in gays and minorities. He says many gay minority men resist being labeled gay.
There's a fair amount of racism within the white gay community that makes these guys feel not very comfortable in a lot of gay settings. And I think there's still a fair amount of homophobia within the black community, which makes it difficult for these guys to be upfront about the fact that they're having sex with other men, that they are gay.
Jolly says this hidden gay lifestyle makes it difficult for HIV educators to reach these men with health information and testing.
Mikey.
Jose Ramirez uses himself as an example when he advises sexually active youth to get tested for HIV. He says even that message is tricky.
I don't think you should force them to get tested. It should be an option they have.
Most common screening tests for HIV look for signs of infection or antibodies that the immune system makes to fight viruses. Doctors say the body makes relatively few HIV antibodies in the first 5 to 6 weeks after infection. So screening tests during those first several weeks will be negative, even though HIV is highly infectious at that time. It's only in week 7 that the body makes enough HIV antibodies, the Y shapes, to turn the screening test positive. Leone says the real problem is that infected individuals can pass on HIV without knowing it before the antibody test turns positive.
The risk of transmitting HIV to sexual partners is much higher, maybe anywhere from 10 to 100-fold greater during that first 3 to 6 months than at any other time during their HIV infection.
To spot HIV infection during this window when the traditional antibody screening test gives negative results, Leone and his colleagues used a more sophisticated blood test. That's how they found the new college cases. Health educator Marianne Turnbull says college students don't want to be confronted about their sexual behaviors.
And I think that there is the myth that as long as they are monogamous for whatever period of time, that's going to make them safe.
She says a lot of people lie about their past and current sexual behaviors, and that's why safe sex measures are important.
At the beginning of school, we handed out a card. There's basically a postcard that said, "Dear, just want to remind you that I'm still here. Sincerely yours, HIV."
Experts say frank discussions about sex should take place both on college campuses and at home. Jose Ramirez says he and his mother hadn't ever discussed sex and the risks before he learned of his HIV infection.
I wasn't ready to tell my mom, but I was forced to tell my mom, kind of, sort of, like, because I had 2 other brothers in the house, and my brother Jimmy, was shaving at that time.
Jose's mother, Gloria Ordonez, remembers when he told her about his HIV infection.
And then start to crying, and more for me was hard, was surprise. And I love Jose very much, and I pray every night for him, they can get well. And also I like his job, what he's doing, because he's helping other people. And he's a good boy.
Jose says his message of HIV prevention resonates with the youth he counsels and the college students he meets at dance clubs and parties. But he says he needs help spreading the message.
Because that stuff needs to be talked about, and they already know about it. I knew about sex when I was 11 years old. My little brother, he knew about sex when he was like 7. He already knew stuff about sex. So they're learning at school through their friends. I mean, I just feel like teachers should just go ahead and talk about it.
STI specialist Dr. Leone reports that he's working with colleges and universities in North Carolina to improve student access to free testing and counseling services that are confidential about HIV testing. And he advises all sexually active individuals to know their HIV status. He says the only way to do that is to get tested.